Well, it's enough to make you want to just slap your knee and say howdy. And that is the Howdy Review, and we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. Why not? Because Ron Miziker is here. And Ron, this is the latest production, the Howdy Show and Dinner Extravaganza. But I was telling everybody that I have the best job. You have the second best job there is in the history of the world, because it's so many jobs. Starting with Disney, what are you responsible for?
Well, I had 3 great jobs at Disney. The first was I was responsible for all the show production, the new show production at all the theme parks, Disneyland, Disney World, Tokyo Disneyland, and so forth. And in that capacity, I created such things as the Main Street Electrical Parade, which is, I was just told by Disney that it was been seen by 1 billion people now.
That's the greatest parade there is.
Well, I think so. But and then my second job with Disney was even better. I was head of television production as a producer for all the specials, the network primetime specials like Sandy Duncan at Disneyland and Christmas at Walt Disney World, and, Mickey Mouse's 40th birthday anniversary celebration, shows like that.
Wow, and with an organization like that, I was just thinking on the way down, I was talking to the grandson of my radio producer, and they were getting ready over in Anaheim to leave the hotel and go to Disneyland, and her grandson Wyatt was almost speechless with anticipation. It was his first visit there.
Yeah.
What an extraordinary experience that is. If it was just Disney, but it hasn't been just Disney.
It's been very fortunate. I actually formed my own company because the last job that I had with Disney was to create all the original shows to put the Disney Channel on the air. And after I had done that, I decided that I wanted to have my own company. So I actually formed a contract with Disney to continue to produce shows for them. But in the meantime, I was able to do shows for everybody.
Like the Sultan of Oman.
Like the Sultan of Oman.
Will you explain that, please, to us?
Well, he was really a very fascinating man. He took a country that in 1970 was primitive. I mean, there was no tractors, no automobiles. They actually closed the gates to the city of Muscat at night. You had to be within the walls of the city. This is in 1970. And he had been sent away by his father to go to Oxford and then Sandhurst, the British military school. When he came back, he said to his father, he said, "We've got to change this country and get it into the 20th century. And his father said, "I don't like people that talk like you." And he threw him in prison for 2 years. And when son got out of prison, he went into house arrest, and he organized a coup, and he overthrew his father, and he took over the country and changed it into a completely modern society with open heart surgery, universities, everybody going to school, modern everything.
Well, that's tough love in Oman. But how did we get to the show?
Well, he wanted to do a Renaissance celebration to show off what he had done to change his country. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did for him, was this large celebration, this elaborate, enormous show that took place one night at the palace. And we had 500 people as the guests, of which there were 45 heads of state. And the really interesting story about it is that when we were planning the show, and I was working with him, and he loved classic music, so we picked the most exciting parts of the various classic to be the musical score for the show. And I said, after we do this enormous thing where we've got all these fireworks, we actually put up more fireworks in 17 minutes than they did the entire Statue of Liberty weekend.
Wow.
And all this enormous stuff and lasers and fountains coming up out of the sea and everything. I said, what we need to do is have something very quiet and like some Omani children coming out and singing good night to the guest. And he said, what would they sing? And I said, well, one of your folk songs. He said, we don't have any folk songs. He said, we've never had music in this country.
If you don't have tractors, you usually don't wind up with folk songs.
That's right. And he said, but I'll tell you what, he said, I will write one for you. So here is a head of state who is actually writing a folk song that he actually recorded into, a recorder. He gave it to me the next morning. I took it back to Hollywood with me where we scored it with our orchestra and everything, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Excuse me, what if it was lousy? Would you have said to the Sultan, this really isn't what we're looking for, it needs a whole lot more dancing rhythm.
We would have made it good.
Yeah, I have that feeling. But when you're in your business, and your business, I mean, the business card that you have must be impresario of extravaganzas. I mean, you don't do tiny little things, but you do a kind of a small, intimate show here in Mesa.
Yes.
Is it going on now?
It just started this weekend as our premiere show.
Howdy.
Yes.
It's the Howdy Show and Dinner Extravaganza.
Yeah. It started a couple of years ago. We were contracted by the state of California Tourism Department to create a special festival in the Gold Country of California. And in doing the research for that show, I found that there was these traveling troops that moved from gold camp to gold camp to gold camp all over the West. And their job was to try to extract as much money from the miners as possible, but they would do it by putting on an entertaining show. And I thought, what a great concept for a dinner show. And since then we looked and looked, and we tried to find different venues. And it wasn't until we found this venue here in Mesa.
Which is called?
Well, it's the Rocking Our Ranch, and we've done a facelift to that, and it's perfect because it takes you, when you go into the ranch, it takes you into this mining camp kind of a look with the saloon and the town hall and so forth.
And where is it? We're looking at it now, but I don't know what the location is.
It's right on Baseline Road between Higley and Power. And it's been there for about 25 years.
And so the cast is there. The entertainment is there. I have one more extremely important question to ask about dinner theater. How's the food?
You know, we've really, two things with the food. Number one is that we actually serve it. And we serve it as part of the show. We actually have songs that introduce the various courses of the meal.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, it's very different. And in that way, it's a totally integrated experience, you know. And our food is, we didn't want to do the traditional barbecue and things like that. Instead, we have a great menu that starts with a salad. It's stuffed chicken breast, as well as braised beef tips, garlic mashed potatoes, and pie a la mode for dessert.
The entire menu and the entire experience can be enjoyed at the Rockin' Our Ranch. But in advance, you can also check out howdyshow.com. You can't get any more direct than that. The howdyshow.com or the website Miziker.com, and virtually everything is there. I'm assuming that this is going to be here for a while.
We are hoping that's going to be here for a long time. Yes.
Well, and I'll tell you what, then why don't we let you have about 6 or 7 months of enormous success, and you can come back and tell me more Sultan of Oman stories.
I'd be happy to.
Ron, it's a good thing that you came in so that we can tell everybody, hey, you want real old-fashioned Western entertainment and some good food besides, it's the Howdy Show. And this is the Pat McMahon program. I say howdy every morning. Oh, and so does Dave Pratt, by the way. On the radio, he has said howdy or some variation of that for 30 years on a number of radio stations. And he's going to say howdy to you on this television station in just a moment.